This week, we want to give you all time to plan, to do your yearly and daily plans. So, Kalisha and I just prepared kind of an overview. Some of you who have been teaching already, or you've done your student teaching, you're familiar with this, but we just want to kind of establish some commonalities going forward. So, this verse is foundational to any of our plans in life, so much so when applying to lesson plans and for our students, committing to God what we're doing is vital, it's key. But He's promised to establish our plans when we do this. And I know that for Kalisha and I, as we've been planning together and praying together as we plan, we have seen God do this so often where we will come to the day of instruction that we've planned for, a couple weeks earlier, a month earlier, whatever, and God has seamlessly integrated it with something else or with a life lesson that needed to be taught on that day. And we had no idea that was going to happen when we planned weeks before. And I know probably you have lots of stories when this has happened for you. So think back on those and just recommit this year to commit to God your plans. He wants to establish them and give a hope and a future for you and the kids as you go through the year. So anyway, I'm just really thankful for how He does that for us. Yearly plans in 6 easy steps, according to Kalisha. All right, so the very first thing we do when we're looking at yearly plans is to go to the current multi-grade cycle on the North American Division of Education website. You will find a cycle for 1 through 8, if you're teaching across that grade of a span, or K to 4, or 5 through 8. You can find an alternation cycle. If you're teaching 2 grades, that's your alternation cycle. So you'll see that there's a different cycle for every grade band and for every calendar year. So in the alternation cycle, it just goes back and forth. An even year you're teaching this, and an odd year you're teaching this with those 2 grades. Some of you just have the 2 grades. If you have more, like a 4-grade span, then you're going to go across a 4-year cycle, and you're going to find it all here on the education website. So that's the first step, to find the cycle so you know what we're all teaching in this current calendar year. And then look at what resources you're going to need. And remember, textbooks are resources that help teach the standards, so they're a tool for you to use. You don't need to cover everything in the textbook necessarily, as long as you're teaching to the standards. The standards are found on the North American Division website as well, but they're covered, or the textbooks support the standards, so feel free to use those, but don't feel bound by them. Okay, the next thing is to find your scope and sequence for each subject area that you will be teaching. And within that, you should be able to find the pacing guide, a suggested pacing guide, of course, telling you, okay, this is about how long you're going to need to take to teach this topic, or this standard or objective, or this unit. And then you can also find information within the table of contents within your textbook. So some of the pacing guides are found online on the education website, and some of them you can look in your textbook or your online resource for your textbook. Some of them you can find both places. But I'm just thinking, for example, for math, there's a places you can find it online on the education site, but also you can go to Big Ideas website and you can find it there. So we will show you where to find this stuff as well. Okay, so look at the multi-grade cycle, find your resources, and within those resources you'll see your pacing guide, whether it be on the website or the textbook. And then figure out, okay, now that I've got the pacing guide materials, how do I want to write it down? Do I want to type it out on my computer? Do I want to write it down in a planning book or on a sheet of paper? I had a couple teachers last year that would do it on a notebook paper and they just listed it in their notebook. But it depends on how you want it. So here's some examples of how Kalisha and I have done it on the computer for some various subjects for grades 1 through 8. So we have, like for science, you can see we divided it into the 2 grade bands, 1 through 4 and 5 through 8. And then we have the 4 quarters there. And we divide it. We'll get to that. This is like a Word format. This is an Excel format, so this is mine. I like to have everything in one place. So Kalisha, she started out doing it separately by subject, which is also really helpful. It's more detailed. I like to see the big picture of everything at once, and she's found that she likes that as well. You might want to do both. You might just want to choose one. Whatever you do, you have your own style. But this has all the subjects, and this is actually our current plan for this next year. So you can see on the left side are the dates. And so I've started planning for, what do we have done?
What format is this in?
Book club. This is Sheets, actually. This is Google Sheets. Good question, sorry. So I said Excel, but this is actually Google Sheets because we planned together so we could edit it together at the same time. So we use Google Drive and whatnot. Okay, so then once you've chosen your format, then you're going to look at your school calendar that you've made or that your principal has made, and you're going to count the content days. So on your calendar, you have field trip days, and you have parent-teacher conference days, and you have your testing window, and you're not going to be able to teach content like every day. So count your content days, and then look and see how many you have in each quarter. So this thought bubble says, I teach social studies 2 times per week. So Monday and Wednesday, I teach social studies for like an hour or whatever. And I'm going to count up, okay, how many Mondays and Wednesdays am I going to be teaching content? So you count them up on your calendar, your school calendar. And here we have 13 days. So this was for the 2021-2022 school year. And then once you've counted the days, then you're going to look at the pacing guide. And you're going to divide the content into the months or the weeks or the days that you counted. So the thought bubble says, okay, my lessons will be divided into 13 content days. I have 4 chapters, because I'm using the textbook as my main resource for this subject, and there's 15 lessons that I want to teach in this unit, so I'm going to need to be creative. I have 15 lessons, but I only have 13 content days. How am I going to fit that? What activities and things will I need? And I have to remember, too, I need to build in time for reflection and for assessment into each unit, and time to be able to reteach if needed. So the pacing guide gives us an idea, but we're going to tweak it for our own calendar and our own students' needs. Okay, so repeat for the other subjects and grade bands. Sorry. Okay, yeah, it's true that a great attitude becomes a great day, which becomes a great year. So as we're planning, looking forward to things can help. So that's an overview of how to do the yearly planning. And I'm thinking, do you have any questions before I go on to the daily plans that have come to mind as you've been watching or listening? Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So there are some subjects that the content that you're teaching will overlap with certain subjects. Can that be counted as something that's covered the content?
Yes, okay, so when I'm planning, and this, maybe it goes more into my daily plans, but yeah, for me, like, I definitely will teach, for example, reading comprehension skills in social studies or science, especially with informational text, right? So yeah, and that is overlapped for my minutes, my instructional minutes as well. So when I'm making my daily schedule and I'm counting out the minutes and I'm turning it into my conference, sometimes those are doing double duty, those minutes, yeah.
Okay.
That was a good question. And I should have mentioned that earlier. But yeah, when I'm putting my minutes down, I'm thinking, okay, I have an hour for social studies, but part of that hour is going to be teaching the reading comprehension skills, so I'm fitting that in, yeah. Yeah, and we're gonna be talking thematic plans a little bit this week as well, and so that's another place where the minutes overlap. I think Alicia said this when we were talking about the presentation one time. Yeah, there's one way to put on socks, but that's just not the case with lesson planning. I mean, is there one way to put on socks? I don't know, maybe you'd argue with that. Maybe there's more than one way. But yeah, you do have to put, you can't flip the sock around and try to put your toe in the other way. But with lesson planning, there's so many different ways. And sometimes it's hard to explain how to lesson plan because you feel like, ah! Yeah, I do this and this and this. And I was trying to explain my schedule earlier and I felt like this guy. But anyway, sorry. I'm trying. Yeah. All right, let's start by gathering all the materials we need to lesson plan. Do you have a bag big enough for it? That might be the right size. It's so nice that a lot of things are online now, though. So it's a lot easier to gather materials with just your laptop and a couple of books, maybe. So, but some of the materials that are really important, and some of you know, you need your long-range plans and your pacing guides. These are often available online, but this whole long table behind me in the wall, on the other side of this wall, has a lot of examples of the textbooks that we'll be using, so you can grab those. Maybe you brought your own textbooks, so when we're planning this week, you'll be able to find the long-range plans and pacing guides either online or in those books, or whatever books you're using. Some of you may be using slightly different textbooks maybe, but standards. Those are other materials that you really need. Those are available online. You'll need your teacher's guide, which your pacing guide is usually found in there or online. Your lesson plan templates. So whatever you use for your lesson plan template, whether it's a notebook or something else. Like I use Planbook, and I love Planbook. Has anybody used Planbook or heard of Planbook? Okay. Yay, okay, so we'll put that in the Padlet, but I also have a slide to show you kind of what it looks like. But it's really nice, it's an online Planbook. You need textbooks and workbooks, and then maybe you have resources from Pinterest or Teachers Pay Teachers that you need. Any other teaching resources, you're gathering these materials. Sometimes you won't get everything at first. Like these other teacher resources, they might come along as you're planning. Anyway, okay, so we're gonna focus on lesson planning right now. But, oh, wait, what are these resources? You ever feel like Dory? Yeah, I do. So I have learned to like try to set my boundaries. Like, okay, I can look for like 5-10 minutes, and then if I haven't found it, well, I'll just use a tried and true teaching strategy or whatever. Like you need to even set a physical timer, and like when it goes off, like on your phone or whatever, then stop, because it's easy to keep going and take up a lot of time. Oh, but man, that feeling when a new lesson idea also meets the standards. All right. So once you have your materials, then you're gonna go back to your yearly plans, your long-range teaching, planning, pacing guide, to just make sure that you're on track, because where am I? There's so much to look at. And then plan backwards. So Just a reminder to begin with the end in mind. What is the goal? What do you want your students to learn? And the textbooks are just resources, so remember you don't have to cover everything. But here's some examples of like the Bible assessment or, yeah, I guess we just have Bible up there. You may want to design your own assessment, but if you're not designing your own, make sure you preview the assessment that you're going to be using so that you know how your students are going to show what they learned. Oh, Oprah. You get an assessment. You get an assessment. Everybody gets an assessment. I don't know if your students will feel as thrilled as her audience does when she hands out cards, though, sorry. But it is thrilling, isn't it, for us to see like how much they've grown? Or it's maybe not thrilling when they haven't, but it is vital for us to know when they haven't, when they're not understanding a concept. So important to see how you're gonna be assessing. There's materials online to help you design your own assessments, like this picture of the language arts. This is again on the Adventist Education site. And you go under the Educators tab, and then there's an assessment toolbox. And I just discovered that, I think, maybe a year or two ago, and it's really cool. There's also assessments that are designed in your curriculum resources, the textbooks and whatnot. So, all right. Once you've looked at that, then you plan for the other pieces, you know, your introduction, building that background knowledge or making sure that that's there, your instruction, direct instruction, explicit instruction, done in a systematic way, and building in time for reflection, review, and then of course the assessment and reteaching. So making room for all of those. So here's a couple of different examples of what it looks like. So that's actually, that encounter example was how Callie and I plan out Bible. We're in a Google Doc together, and we put down the dates that we're teaching, and then we divide up the sections of the teaching cycle for encounter and how long it's going to take and whatnot. And then for science, this is an example of a unit design kind of based on Marzano's teaching of the standards. And so it has day 1, day 2, day 3, and it's done in like a table format. However you do it, you're still dividing it up. Yes?
Will you just elaborate a little bit on what encounter is for those that may not be as familiar with that yet?
Yes.
Or if they may-
If you haven't taken training for Encounter, it's the Bible curriculum for grades K through 12, 1 through 12, 1 through 12. Right? 1 through 12? Yeah. And it's amazing. So it incorporates all the different ways that our brain learns material. It's very interactive, and you have to take training before you're allowed access to the materials because they want to have a robust teaching experience, a learning experience. So you can get training through the ALC, the Adventist Learning Community online. You may have received training through your teacher prep program. You can also be trained in person, although I don't know if they're doing that as much anymore. What's the best? ALC? ALC.
Next year at Teachers Convention, we are bringing in, NAD's bringing in the office for elementary and secondary, so there's going to be immersion. But for those who
Okay.
received the communication, well, that we sent out last week and the week before, encouraging you, because on Friday for the Bible Encounter presentation, for access to the resources, it would help if you would have taken the ALC course so you can be allowed to have access.
Right, right. So on Friday, you will have access if you've taken that course and if you've received their certificate from that. And it will show up. You can check, Lisa helped me remember this, you can check your NAD dashboard, right?
Yes.
And it will show up that you've completed it.
And if that doesn't work, ask Sherry, she can look it up.
Thank you, yes. Sherry can help you look it up if you don't know. Okay, so it's always helpful to use the lesson template, like maybe you have one from your teacher prep program or one that you've already been using as you've been teaching in your other areas before moving into this union. But here's a couple of examples. Just a reminder of the I do, we do, you do explicit instruction cycle. And it can look many different ways, but really when you're doing your lesson plans for this week, We want to keep them simple. So you have your topic or lesson title, or lesson number even. And then you have the skills that are taught, the textbook pages, if you use textbook pages or any other resource, I guess that's under other materials, and then student practice sheets. So you're just putting in like, okay, this is what we're studying, I'm teaching this, we're doing this activity or these pages to learn it. So it's pretty simple. This is a very simple math lesson plan. So we have chapter 1, lesson 1, and chapter 1, lesson 2, we're doing this practice, and it tells like, okay, we're modeling, counting, understanding, writing the numbers 1 and 2, and here's the pages in the book, and they're using their workbook. That's really basic, but it doesn't have to be super detailed. Correct? Is this okay? This is what Kalisha and I were talking about, but I just want to double check before I, okay. So because of COVID and because of students being in and out, and even like on sick days or when they're absent or on vacation or something, Kalisha and I have really enjoyed using Google Classroom. So we make student-friendly instructions for the lesson plan on some of the subjects. Some of them are much more simple, much simpler, but then some of them are more detailed like this. This is, what subject is this? Annotating. It looks like reading skill. So anyway, we go through and we make more explicit instructions because it helps us when we're teaching to just be able to pull it up on the computer, but this is just an option. So we've really enjoyed team planning. So if you can find somebody that is, well, I'll get to that in a minute, but if you can find somebody to team plan with, you can use Google Docs to go in and edit together. Even though you're long distance, you can plan over Zoom, or you can plan with the teacher in your school if you have that option. So anyway, then we put it into Google Classroom. So that's an option that many kids and teachers are using now to make assignments, and you can put videos and links in there. You can also use Jupyter for this. If you're using Jupyter as the grading program at your school, that's another great option. I know friends that do that. Yeah, there's other platforms, but Google Classroom does connect to Jupyter. So if you've connected it, then you can go in and it'll import the assignment details and the grade. So that's really nice. Okay, this is Planbook. So I have found Planbook to be amazing. And of course, you can color code it if you want. But so this has like, it allows you to design your own schedule. You input in all the classes that you're teaching, and you put in the times that you're teaching them once you've made your schedule, and then it shows you either a week view, or you can go into a daily view. You can print off these plans, so you can have the hard copy if you want. You can share them via email with a sub, or you can print them for a sub. If that's the case that you're sick, you know, unexpectedly, and you have everything ready to go to share with somebody.
Is it an app? Is it an online thing?
Yeah. So it's a website. It's a website, but it also is an app. So on my phone, which I don't have up here, but I can pull up Planbook, and I can look and see, and the links, like you can link Google Classroom to this as well. So like this, like for book club here, for language arts, grades 5 through 8, it just says Google assignments. And I can click on this and it will take me right into Google Classroom, and I can see the instructions, and then it has all the attachments that Google Classroom has as well. So I can either pull them up from here or Google Classroom. But so if you're using Google Classroom, you don't have to enter it twice. You just connect the class, and then when you enter your stuff into Google Classroom and then go into Planbook and refresh it, it'll all show up. So it's really nice.
And it costs how much?
It's $15 for the whole year. Isn't that amazing? It's like cheaper than some paper planners. And I can have it with me at all times. And you can bump the lessons too. So, you know, when you write out your lessons, I don't know if any of you have written them out, but anyway, I used to write out my lessons and then something would change and then I would have to erase or scribble or whatever. Yeah, so this will just bump it forward however many days you want. And you can set up your school calendar with this too, so that way it accounts for your breaks. So you set up your Thanksgiving break or Labor Day holiday or something like that. So anyway, it's really great. Yeah.
Can we just write in the search plan book, it'll come up?
It's just planbook.com. Yeah.
Something else, you have a 30-day free trial
Oh,
before you're charged anything. So that's good to know.
that's awesome. I forgot about that. Thank you. Did you have that?
We linked it in Padlet.
Okay. Yay. Thanks, Lisa. So you can go into the Padlet and just look at that. Click there, and it'll take you right there. So even if you don't use Google Classroom, this was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And you can attach standards here, and you can. There's so many options that I haven't explored. I'm pretty basic with it. You can check off when you've taught a lesson, and it will like make the square red or something with a check mark. Yeah.
Our Adventist standards are all in it.
Yes, that's right. I forgot that. Thank you. Yeah. So it's really helpful. Is there anything else that? Oh yeah.
Do you mind clicking on one so I can just see what the form looks like?
Here, let me just go into my plan book.
Oh, no, I thought it was like just
It's okay, no problem. So this is the site. That's a good question. I don't know how to zoom it. Oh, it does take a little bit of time to load sometimes. There we go. So yeah, I'll show you closer. And then feel free to play around with this more later too, because there's so many options, and if you do the free trial. Okay, so I have not planned my procedures yet, so it's all blank, but that's what's coming. August is coming. Here I have the first week of school. So we start with worship. So I've entered in all of these classes. Let me go back into, okay, so here's some science plans that I've done already. All right, so you can, this is just something that I copied and pasted from Google Docs because that's where I was planning with my teacher, but you can see it has the links in here, so if I click on the link, it will take me right to my resource. So I can print it from there. I just put the link in. Oh, but how did I get that link? That was from the science materials that are online at Flourish. Kendall Hunt has a lot of materials at Flourish, and so if you have that account, which you should have when you have the science textbooks and stuff at your school, then you can get a login and you can go in and find those things online. So, but yeah, we can probably talk more about that at science time when we get to that this week. That's a great question, how to get those things. Let me see if I have, oh yeah, so here's an example of the Google Classroom, the link. So here's a Google assignment, so if I click on that, it will take me to the assignment in Google Classroom right there. And that has the links in that assignment, but it also has it here. So either way, I don't know, some of you who use Planbook maybe use it a little differently. You can put titles in here and stuff, but I'm just like super basic with it. I just like having it. But you can view it just daily as well. Oh, but I don't have anything there, sorry. Okay, well anyway, feel free to play around with it. Does anybody have any other questions about the plan book while I have it up? Okay. Did you? Yeah?
Go ahead.
No, back there.
So when we have to turn in our lesson plans, maybe per week, whatever,
Uh-huh.
you can print for the whole week and.
You can, yes.
Cool.
Yes, and you can print all items for the week. You can choose a date range. You can choose a start end time and how you want to print it. You can email it. There's different views. Here's where you can go and set up your classes. All right, anyway, let me go back.
You could email that to the principal and all that. And then we're do you find the tutorials for this?
Oh, they have some on the website. You could also find some on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
But they have like a, where's the, oh, whoops. I don't know. Oh, here's the standards reporting. Yeah, I think when you first go in,
I'll find it in YouTube.
that's a good question though. I'm curious as to, I've just kind of played around with it and that's how I found out stuff, but I think, but that's not very helpful. So, okay. All right, just remember, we all know that a good lesson plan is a living document. It's not set in stone. So it's a guide that keeps us engaged and thinking about what we're teaching. So I remember reading something Mrs. White wrote about sermon preparation, right? Like some preachers like to get up there and just kind of wing it on a topic, and God can use that. But then she also she also says how much more God can use when the mind is engaged in planning and preparing. And so as I've been doing this planning and preparing with Kalisha and doing more of this preparing ahead of time instead of just preparing the night before, the week before, but like planning 2 weeks to a month ahead of time, or even more now that she's on maternity leave. We started planning second quarter this summer, which I've never done ever. So it's really weird, but I know that seeing the whole year like that is such a blessing. And like, it's really helping me connect things in a way that I'm not able to do if I'm just planning right before. So anyway, all right, just a couple of things when we're planning for differentiation. Because we have multiple grades, even if we just had one grade, the students are all at different places, but especially in multiple grades, it's really helpful to plan for replicable routines. So this is what we do during this time. We're gonna do this rotation here, like I'm rotating small groups to my table while the rest of you are working independently, and this is what you'll be doing, and so we're training them for what to do, replicable routines. Technology is also really helpful, so there's sites like MobyMax or RazKids that are available on the Teacher Technology Store, which we'll be talking about later this week. Any tools that can be used as a center or as a teaching support that you can link with a lesson and say, hey, if you don't understand this, go watch this video here. Or, yeah, also small group instruction is key. Even in the single grade classroom, but then especially in multi-grade. So we're monitoring progress with assessments, whether it's an oral reading fluency assessment or a little math exit ticket quiz or whatever. We're using that to adjust and plan for small groups. And simplify your planning. Let's end with how to save time, because planning takes a long time. And we don't have planning periods in our day, right? So how can we do this most effectively? Really bulk up your template so that you have, we looked at those example templates briefly, but so that you really have the meat there. And again, use basic daily routines so you don't have to like reinvent the wheel every day. You're just like, okay, we're gonna do this and this and this. I mean, give it variety, right? Like sometimes like the routines will be the same and you're like, I just need something different for the teacher and the student. Batch your planning uninterrupted. This has been huge for me. Like any of you that have already been planning in your teaching life, hopefully have already found this to be beneficial for you too. But like when I meet with Kalisha and we say, okay, we're gonna meet for 2 hours on a Wednesday night or whatever on Zoom, and we're gonna plan together and this is our set aside time, we get so much more done than if I'm, especially, oh man, I used to stay late at school, like after the school was done. That may work for some people, but it didn't work for me at all. So now I go to the gym right after school gets out and then I'm refreshed and then I can like come home, relax a little bit and then plan and my brain is more awake. Maybe you plan best in the morning. Whatever you choose to do, it's a really good idea to batch it. Not have anything else going on. Sequester yourself in your room. Whatever. Remember that more resources isn't necessarily better, that whole Dory thing. But what is really helpful is expanding the box of tricks that you have, the learning activities that you can reuse. Like if you, for example, do think, pair, share, or some of those basic ones that are really effective and robust in your classroom. Then also have a place for your materials and a materials list. So organize your papers. There's all kinds of systems out there. Maybe you already have one that works for you. That's great. If you don't, and if you're not sure where to start, there's a club. This is a paid investment, but something that really helped me was Angela Watson's 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Club. Yes, I know. So I think it was like $100, and I was like, man, this is a lot of money, but it was so worth it, and you have a lifetime membership. So it helps me organize my time, my papers, my classroom, my procedures, so good. Anyway, you can talk to any one of us if you want more information. But that's to have a place for materials and a place for your materials list so you can look at it. And because I love planning with Kelly Shen, I know she would say this if she were here, how much of a blessing it's been for us. Personally, not just professionally, but professionally as well. Two are better than one. So we have twice the ideas and twice the fun, and then half the time but double the product. Well, yeah. Iron sharpens iron as well. And we get that academic dialogue, but also the friendship. So if you have somebody near or far that's planning in a similar style schedule, well, it doesn't have to totally be the same style. It's good to, give each other new ideas and stuff, but it does help if you are kind of on the same wavelength there. If you have a similar schedule, similar grade bands, and you want to plan together, I would suggest trying it out. And so just a couple of tips for doing that if you're interested. Has anybody done that before? Any of you that have been teachers for a number of years? I didn't do that until a couple years ago. Yeah, you did? Yeah. How did it go for you? How did that work?
I worked in a big school, in a public school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you had your teacher team, your grade level team, or how?
Well, I worked in 4K, so the whole
Okay.
building was 4K, so I could just go to any teacher and say, hey, what do you do for this?
Oh, that's amazing. Yes, yeah. So I had never had that until this. What has helped me too, Facebook groups have also helped. I started discovering ways to be able to reach out. I used to think if I do that, I'm saying that I can't teach or whatever. Well, that's ridiculous. But anyway, I used to feel that way. So this has been such a blessing to be able to pray with another teacher, share documents and resources. Being flexible is important. And keeping our individuality. Like Kalisha and I plan together, but we don't do things the same way in our classroom. Even the plans, we'll tweak them. When I put them into Google Classroom, I might add something or take something out or whatever. Anyway, okay. The best plans are the ones laid at Jesus' feet. So this prayer from, I think, Mrs. White, maybe that's to Christ, but one of her books is, "Take me, O Lord, as wholly thine. I lay all my plans at thy feet. Use me today in thy service. Abide with me, and let all my work be wrought in thee." So we have a master teacher and a helper and a friend, and he loves you. He loves your students, and he knows where each one of us are at. So the best plans are his plans. Okay, so this week, I think this is the end. Yep, this is the end. And then we'll have a few minutes for questions and planning or whatnot. This week's requirements are that we're going to make long-range plans, so our yearly plan overview, and then we're going to make 2 weeks of daily plans. And this will give you a really good start for the school year. We're not going to be planning procedures per se, so you want to give yourself a few days at the beginning of the year, right, for procedures and assessments and things. But we will be planning the core content areas, science and social studies plans. Is that for me to stop talking, or is that, no, never mind. Sorry, we're almost done anyway. Science and social studies plans we're gonna be talking about tomorrow and doing them tomorrow, starting them tomorrow. And, excuse me. Tuesday, Ben Zork and other presenters, I think mainly Ben, is going to be coming to talk with us about Pathways, which is the NAD reading and writing curriculum. And he'll be talking a little bit about maybe some other resources to pull into that as well. Wednesday, we'll be planning for math. And then we're going to see some ways, some ideas for teaching PE, music, and art. Those are optional plans, though. Okay, so on your check sheet that you have in your folder, you'll see at the bottom it says extra plans: music, PE, art, and Bible, right? Because not all of you might have been trained in Encounter, so that's optional. And then Thursday we'll have time to finish, hopefully, and turn in plans. Sometimes you may find that you need to work in the evenings with homework, but we want to give you as much time as we can during the day here to work together as a group. Well, feel free to work together as a group after the meetings are over too, that's fine. But and then Friday is Bible. So, yeah, I think, oh yes, just an example here of what your yearly might look like, and your daily is just pretty simple. But again, you could use a template like the one we saw earlier. So this will all be in Padlet. In fact, it's in Padlet right now. I already put this one in, this whole presentation. So you can find it there if you find it useful. And do you have any thoughts? What questions do you have after that part? I always say, I'm like, okay, what questions do you have to ask? You have to ask one question, and then it can be any question, like, what did you eat for breakfast? But I don't know, get people in the practice of asking. Yeah, you had one, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just curious to know approximately how long does it take you to plan every day?
Oh, that's a really good question. Like for me, I'm a kind of a slow planner. I don't know, actually, I don't know comparatively. I feel like I'm slow. For me, when Kalisha and I plan, we plan for, we do a rotation of Bible. Are you talking about here at this workshop or me personally? Sorry.
Well, I'm just trying to see, what that's gonna look like.
Oh, yeah.
Am I gonna be crazy?
Like
for
here?
6 hours or 2 hours or 1 hour?
Oh, I don't know. For 2 weeks of plans,
So you do them like 2 weeks at a time.
yeah, we usually plan 2 weeks at a time. Sometimes we plan 4 weeks at a time, depending on the subject. But we'll plan for like a couple hours. And then in that 2 or 3 hour span, we'll plan for like one subject for 2 to 4 weeks. Actually, usually it's 4 weeks as I'm thinking about it, because we'll try to plan, like a Bible unit is usually about 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. And then Pathways, same thing. Yeah, the fastest ones usually are science and social studies because it's only 2 days a week. But yeah, usually it'll take us a couple hours to plan for one of the book club units. But you know what I don't do? I haven't planned writing with her or phonics. So language arts would take longer than just a couple hours. So that might be a thing to finish up on Thursday this week. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. You're good. Yeah.
Okay, so this is my first year.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. I taught kindergarten last year.
Oh, that's
And,
awesome.
My planning, unfortunately, is quite different this year.
Yes.
We're going to have third and fourth grade, and my
Okay.
planning usually takes one complete whole day from very, very early until very, very late at night. So
Wow.
I'm
How much do you plan for at one time?
1 week.
Okay. Yeah.
So the whole Sunday is taken, so I'm also
Wow.
curious how long of the plan, for 1 week, how long
Yes.
does that take to plan for each subject?
Yeah, and I think this is kind of an experiment week in a way to see, and I know we're just getting started, so it's going to be slower at first if you haven't planned with the materials before. So I wouldn't gauge it just on this week. I shouldn't say like, this is our experiment, let's see how long it takes to plan, because you're going to get faster as you go on, obviously. Just like with kindergartners, you got more experience through the year, probably was easier, right, to pull things together.
But at least
But-
one week, would that take like, the same one whole day, completely day, to plan for a whole week?
What do you guys think back there? Help me, because I do such different spans.
I mean,
Yeah, it does.
it can take me 3 hours, sometimes 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm going in depth with a project, I want to make sure I have all the materials ready. I'll go into the science hub and get things.
Exactly.
But then I'll go off on a tangent on lesson planning, like grammar. And I'll like, oh, why don't we just go ahead and do 3 weeks? And I'll do, 3 detailed weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get squirreled back to, oh, I need to get back because my time is going. It
But
just
what
Yes.
depends.
What about the other subjects, because you have to teach science, and Bible, and.
So I try to squeeze it all. It can be, I don't know.
I've gone much more to planning by unit.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice to have the entire unit planned.
Mm-hmm.
So like for science, beside the unit that you're planning, keep in mind your pacing
Yes.
and plan that whole unit. And then you don't have to think about that one again
Agreed.
because it's already planned.
Plan the
So
whole
that
unit.
gives you a little more time to work on a different subject.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really nice to plan by unit. If I'm planning just for the week and that's all I have, you can do that in maybe two to 4 hours.
Right. Well, that's such a key point, though, Jody, because planning by the unit, you're planning with the end in mind. So you're seeing the whole thing. And if I'm just planning by week with the older grades, I'm not going to get that big picture, and it's not going to be as robust of a plan as it would be if I went by unit. So it is, yeah, it's not really planning by week anymore. So it's kind of a different time frame. I think you'll just have to see maybe how it works for you.
Well, because it just seems, since I've never done it that way, so I'm just
Yeah,
trying to see how can I plan a unit. If I plan for a whole unit, what about the rest of the subjects I have to teach? I have
Right.
to also plan for that.
right. And hopefully this, being able to get ahead of the game, like starting this week, will help you all year long. Because I wouldn't be able to plan for a unit like, the Sunday before the week that I'm teaching, like that. It wouldn't, you're right, it wouldn't work. I couldn't plan them all at once. There would be not enough time. So if you plan 2 weeks ahead, so like school doesn't start till August 15 for me, so I want to make sure that I have planned the first units before school starts. Yeah, I don't know. Uh-huh.
Is there any merit to a first-year teacher
Uh-huh.
planning by the week with the goal that by the end of that first year,
Yeah, sorry.
we're saying.
I totally see what you're saying, and thinking back, like,
Year,
yes, definitely.
okay.
Yeah, don't have to do it all comprehension questions typed out for the old pathways or whatever. Like, yeah, so there's materials and lesson plans available on there. Not for everything, but you can find some things. You just search for your subject or your unit. That's a goal too in the future for the NAD. They're building a website that will be even more robust for sharing materials based on the new updated prioritized standards that are coming in the next bit. So yeah,
Emily,
yeah.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
We were just talking, weekly plans.
Yeah.
Even as a first year teacher, you might want to do 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it gives you a little bit, if you're exhausted that next weekend,
Yeah.
you're already prepped.
Yes.
You get a little reprieve. I try to do at least 2 or 3 weeks.
Agreed.
And there are some times when it's weekly, I'll be
Mhm.
honest.
Yeah.
But I try to do just to give myself a little break.
Yeah.
Something that my school is gonna start this year is we are having, so for head teachers, this is a good idea, other teachers, you can suggest this. We're having weekly staff meetings that are designated for planning, 1 hour a week. So every Wednesday, my entire staff is meeting in our lunchroom and we're gonna plan just for 1 hour.
Wow, that's awesome.
So you can grade, you can.
Staff planning
lesson
meetings.
plan, But that way
Mhm.
we're all holding each other accountable and we're
Mhm.
all there for a single purpose.
Yeah.
And that's 1 hour that I don't have to do on Sunday or late at night.
Mhm.
Because then if you are in a smaller school and, hey, we're studying, human bodies, anybody else doing that this week? Or next
Mhm.
week, hey, why don't we do big buddy, little buddy project together? Something you can bounce ideas off to. But I
Yeah.
would suggest at least 2 weeks.
Agreed. And that's why we're doing the 2 weeks here, is hopefully that'll get you ahead to continue to do the 2 weeks. Yeah, when I just did the 1 weeks, I felt like I was drowning as a new teacher. But I made it. The kids made it. So, but it is way better to do at least 2. So, yeah, thanks for that. Okay. Thank you.